Welcome, everyone, back to the Duty Bound podcast. It is me. You do not have to adjust your volume or your screen. It's me, Dr. D, back at it again for the second half of the Payday podcast. So if you got paid today, that means you should have downloaded the podcast. Anywho, as you can see, I'm not by myself. I promised you guys that I would have some more guests on the show, and ta-da! And he's another doctor. Look at that. Doctor. How cool is that? I don't know that we've had, yes, we had. We had Dr. Alicia Alls on here. So this would be the second. But 2024, brand new guest, brand new information, brand new stories. So everybody, like, say hi to my new friend. And I'm stealing from my other homie, my new homie, Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you.
Dr. Jenkins, first of all, tell everybody what branch you're in, just so there's no confusion.
I'm in the greatest branch, the United States Air Force.
They probably couldn't hear you over me chuckling that you said the greatest branch.
The greatest branch, the United States Air Force.
Oh, he's in the Air Force. It's okay. I get it. Not everybody wants to work hard.
Yeah, we can work smarter.
Work smarter, not harder. I ain't mad at you. I'm trying to convince my daughter to go into the Air Force. So
no one leaves the Air Force to join the Army.
Nobody? There's somebody out there that left the Air Force and went to the Army.
I'll wait.
That's my challenge to my listeners. Somebody. I don't care if it's one person. I'm going to find one person that left the Air Force and went to the Army. That's a challenge to all my listeners and the viewers. That's a challenge. Even if you lie, just lie and tell me you did it, just so Dr. Jenkins know. Don't lie to me.
Such an Army thing to do.
Yeah, to lie. Anyway, I'm glad to everyone to get to meet you, learn more about your journey in the Air Force. So, yes, tell us all first. When did you go in? Enlisted or officer? So, yeah, when you went in and an officer, and then what your job title is.
Yeah, so I enlisted in February of 2010. All roads lead through Lackland. So that's where my journey began. After that, I went to my first tech school that I would go to, which is in Wichita Falls, and I served as an aircraft fuel maintainer. I did that for good around 6-7 years, and then I switched over to intelligence. You actually go to Goodfellow for that training, and it's 6 months long.
Where's Goodfellow at?
That's in Texas as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
Lackland is in Texas.
Yep. Yeah.
Where's Goodfellow in relation? Because I know Lackland is north or like West Texas.
It's a couple hours. I remember it being either 2 or 3 hours distance to be able to get to Houston, or if you wanted to get to Dallas. So, yeah.
And then Lackland is that the one near San Antonio?
Antonio. Yep.
Antonio. Okay.
Yeah. And for the last AFSC, when I became an officer, which is October of 2020, that you go through Georgia. And now I'm serving as a public affairs officer. For that training, you actually go to Fort Meade. And
Fort Meade?
Fort Meade.
Yep. Oh, okay. I think Fort Meade is a joint base. Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't think many people know that.
You have air, you have army, you have civilians that all come together and they're taking the same courses. So I think that's one of the few FSCs where you have multiple branches coming together, learning at the same time, and ultimately graduating with the same experience.
Yeah, Fort Meade. I mean, I lived on Fort Meade before I commissioned. And I worked at a reserve unit outside of Fort Meade, but my general understanding at first was just that Meade was an army base.
Yeah.
Um, didn't even know that there were multiple branches there, but I think most people that live in the Maryland area also know that Meade is home to the NSA,
Yes.
around there, and then DISA, I think, is there.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. It could be just an army base, but I know that's where we go as public affairs officers for our training, as well as public affairs specialists.
It's funny because when I was a reservist, I was in a public affairs unit.
Really?
Yes.
Ah, so did you come through Fort Meade then?
Well, see, the interesting thing was when right before I commissioned, I joined the reserves. But because I had already had my associate's degree, like I came in with a little bit more rank, than just coming in as like an E1, and I didn't have to go to basic because I was already in ROTC.
Mhm.
So I had joined while I was in ROTC. So I never went to like basic training like most enlisted do. I was enlisted for like a hot minute.
So you skated.
Product placement dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, the grit journal. It's used. Okay. I use it. So that's why it's like not sturdy. But we're gonna try to make it sturdy because people should go to my website and get the book. And you'll get a special handwritten note from me if you ordered a book. Put that out there. Who wouldn't love a handwritten note, right? Special. It's only 19.99.
Yes.
So go get your book. Grit. GRIT stands for Get Ready Intentionally Today. Okay, go ahead. Back to your story.
Yeah. So that's where my journey began for both the enlisted side and the officer. I would be considered a Mustang.
Is that an Air Force term?
I believe Army uses it as well. I
Never.
mean, you would know if you were in the Army.
I have never heard of that term before. What does that mean that you were enlisted and
Yeah, so ultimately, it's someone who was enlisted first and then later transitioned to the officer world.
a Mustang?
Mhm.
Yep, people in the comment section, y'all gotta say something. I don't know. Okay, Mustang. So you joined in 2010. Why did you join the Air Force?
Man. So it was multiple reasons. When I was in college, I was in my freshman year. Uh, 9/11 happened, and I just felt like there was something that I had to do um, to just give back more than what I was currently doing. Yeah, I volunteered and um, participated in so many different local programs, but there was something more inside of me that said, "This isn't the last stop. College isn't just it for you." Um, so I actually spoke to my aunt, well, my godmother at that time. She was in the Air Force, and she just advised me, to put a pause on it. And she had said, I guess based off of her experiences, told me that the Air Force and the military would change me, and that I shouldn't join. But it was inside of me, just the desire to serve. So in 2010, enough was enough, and I decided to raise my right hand to serve and protect the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
so that's why I chose to join.
How old were you when you went in?
So I was 27. Yeah,
Okay. You already had a degree,
I already had my degree. I was out of college. Yeah, so um,
but you
I
went enlisted.
mhm,
You
yeah.
went enlisted first.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so that's a great point that you even bring that up. The reason why I went enlisted is because my recruiter at the time told me that there were so many other people who were in the military that had their degrees. Why would they choose you? because there's already that relationship that's built up. So they would more than likely pick someone who is currently serving opposed to someone who's coming on the outside and has no military experience. So I trusted that, and that's why I enlisted.
Okay. Do you regret enlisting first?
Do I regret? You know, no,
Okay.
no, I don't. Because I very much could have gone the officer route, um, or possibly, let's say I did go down that route, would I be where I'm at now? Would I have been able to have the impact that I've had without having that foundation, that grounding in the military culture? I think not. So I think it actually helped me, um, enlisting first.
So
I had that.
it sounds like before you enlisted though, you already had like a heart to serve. Like you said,
Yeah,
you were already in like volunteer work. So that's something that you've been doing since you were younger.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, even as a youth, in high school, I remember we went to Juarez, Mexico, and it was a great experience. It was a youth group that I was a part of, First Baptist, and at that time, it was Pastor Scott was a youth pastor, and he brought us to Juarez, which now is one of the most or considered one of the most dangerous locations in Mexico. So we had no idea. We were young, but it was such a great experience. And the one thing that I do take from that was you know, never really looking down on others and their situation and understanding that everyone can provide you a gift regardless of how much they have. And so when I think back onto this one particular day, they gave us lunch every day as
Mhm.
we're building these homes. And a lot of these people, they lived in literally cardboard boxes. And it was rough. It was rough. But this particular day, I took my lunch and I gave it to one of the little girls that she was just kind of watching us build. And immediately, like it wasn't even a second thought, she broke up everything that was in that brown paper bag and shared it not only just with her family members, but with her friends and everyone else that was there.
Oh wow.
So I asked her, I was like, well, why did you do that? I gave you the food. And she, you just as a scholar would, she was just like, well, what's the point if I'm full and everyone else is hungry?
Oh,
I was like, that's not fair.
yeah.
But it's one of those things that touched me, and I tried to carry that, moving forward, um, just having that mindset, because when you think about, in America, oftentimes people can get caught into consumerism, and it's the things that you have
Yeah.
and how much you can get for you.
Right.
Uh, Whereas in that moment, she gave, and she also gave something to me, which I've never forgotten, and that was I had to be around like 13 or 14 years old. So,
Wow. I mean, I imagine something like that would stick with you for the rest of your life. That's like
yeah.
an incredible moment. So, how, um, speaking of your service, because we met through Wounded Warrior. So, how did you stumble upon Wounded Warrior? Because you're still in. Most people don't really volunteer with Wounded Warrior or get involved with Wounded Warrior until they're out, but you're still in. So, how did you come across Wounded Warrior?
Yeah. So, a friend of mine, we were both in Disney World. I can't tell you the exact job, but I can say that we were friends with characters in Disney World. And I'll let your imagination run wild
You
with
can't
that.
even tell me what character.
So we were friends with Baloo, Bear,
Okay.
and Captain Hook. He was able to be friends with Captain Hook. I never got that opportunity, but that's where we met.
Okay.
And from there, we just we were thick as thieves. And it's one of those friendships that just continues to this day. He's off in California living life, and I'm here on the East Coast. But uh, what a journey to think back at that time. So when 9/11 happened for him, he immediately joined the service.
Okay.
And, it was second nature. Like, I think he had the same mindset. Something happened, it happened on our soil. What can I do in order to give back?
He also joined the Air Force.
No, the Navy.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And my gosh, he's had a journey, a career. He he's worked for some really, really major companies, and the military really has just provided him with just so many opportunities, as well as myself.
Okay.
But that's how we met. So he got injured, or was injured, and he joined the Wounded Warrior Project. And it was back in 2015, after I received my injury and had been dealing with so many different challenges at that time, that he asked that I come out to a Veterans Day parade in New York. And initially I was like, nah, it's for people who are dealing with maybe TBI, or amputees, burn
Hmm.
victims. That was my mindset, and that's generally how a lot of the marketing was. So that was my assumption. Little did I know that there were so many people who had been dealing with the same type of challenges, and those who are amputees, it's a really small number. So my ability to be able to connect with those veterans, and I'm talking about ones who are in their 50s all the way to those who are 18 years old. It was just amazing. So that was my first introduction into Wounded Warrior Project.
Hmm.
And um, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't feel deserving. I was
Hmm.
like, well, others probably have gone through a lot worse.
Right.
But that, again, there's the invisible and there's the visible
Visible.
wounds we'll go through. And sometimes it's those invisible wounds that they really never heal.
Okay.
so
So what
uh
led you to want to be a peer leader?
so it actually was presented to me. I think it was the things that I was doing. I was naturally just talking to the other warriors, alumni, about how it's impacted my life, or provided support where I could. And there was a guy by the name of Chris Stacy. He had asked me to come out to a training, myself and a couple of other warriors. And I believe it was either 1 or 2 weeks. It may have been 1 week training. And it was it was awesome. So after that, I became a warrior leader, and then eventually transitioned into a peer support group leader. The difference between the two is your warrior leader is mainly focusing on providing events for the warriors, but a peer support group leader is really strictly that. Yeah, you host a couple of events per year, but the main focus is providing that peer support. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I absolutely love it because it um, allowed me to live the logo, go from the one that was being carried to now being that warrior that is carrying others. So
Did you get that from the
it's
training?
no, no, no. It's
It's
literally comes.
very hallmarky. It was
I,
like,
I know. It may sound cheesy, but it's, if you look at the logo,
yeah.
it's an Air Force person carrying an Army person.
Wow. Wow.
uh,
I hope that like when like civilians hear us, they know that this is like all love, but we do give each
Although
other a
it's
lot.
all,
We do give each other a lot of stuff. Like the jokes never end. I can
yeah,
tell.
we can talk about each other, but no one can talk about us. It's
Yeah, that's pretty much how like an outside person say something and be like, who you talking to?
exactly, exactly.
Because I was on the Capitol yesterday. You know, Annapolis is home to the Academy. So I'm there in the Capitol and I remember we went to this one delegate's office and I was telling her about my organization, Glass Soldier. She was like, Army. And I was like, yeah, she let out this loud whoa. And the girl that I was with was Navy. And she was like, go Navy, beat Army. And I was like, when? It wasn't last year. So then we just started going back and forth about, because my grandfather was Navy. So I was like, yeah, but this year the Army put money behind those ads. I
Yeah,
mean, they were hilarious.
yeah.
Um, my favorite one was how many times the Army beat like the Navy in dive competitions. And we're like, y'all whole job is to be on the water. And yet the Army has more votes than the Navy.
Mm.
Anyway, I digress. It's
That's
always
it.
going to be.
And both my grandfathers were in the army, and my uncle as well. My father's side and on my mother's side, my uncle was in the Marines.
So
But
your grandfather, like my grandfather, is rolling around in his grave because my grandfather was Navy. So he knew his granddaughter was in the Army.
but it's interesting, like that wasn't even the catalyst for me joining. That was never a thought, like, oh, because my family members join, I need to um, follow their lineage. It was
So
it
you
was
were
true.
never interested in the Army?
Yeah, I never thought about it. I never thought about it. It wasn't as if it was this lifelong goal of mine. It was more so, like I mentioned, 9/11, like which the day that changed everything. So,
Okay. Interesting. Um, what was I about to ask you? Organizations, because you were working with Wounded Warrior. That's where we were. Wounded Warrior. So, um, considering your work with Wounded Warrior, do you think there are too many organizations or not enough organizations in the veteran space as it relates to like Wounded Warriors, PTSD, the things that military service members go through? What is your take on like too many, not enough?
hmm. I would have to say that a lot of the organizations have to do a better job of marketing and ensuring that these veterans know the organizations that are out there and understanding each individual lane in which they serve. Like, so for instance, you have One Warrior Project, which really is a mega powerhouse, and they provide grants to other organizations. It is very much top tier. Their leadership is great. Um, so I would have to say that is the jack of all trades, with the exception of the master of none. Like I think they have mastered so many different areas. But then you have the Mission Continues. Mission Continues, their main focus is on the volunteer
Hmm.
aspect of the house. Then you have Operation Homefront, where
Oh, yeah.
theirs is just Operation Homefront. Their main focus is the veteran as well as their family. It's a lot more on the families than some of the other organizations. And again, understanding that there are all these different lanes for all these organizations, I just believe that the marketing piece of it, a lot of them have to just do a better job at that.
Do you believe in grassroots organizations?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you think that because there's a when I first started out, there were a lot of questions about why they don't focus on active duty programs for active duty service members versus when they already got out and they already have these wounds. What do you say to someone that says, why aren't y'all focused on active duty?
Um, that's where I come into play, right? So being someone who is still serving and uh, serving as a public speaker for Wounded Warrior Project, I am in a unique role, as you had mentioned, because most people, if they're part of Wounded Warrior Project, they're not part of the military. So being in that unique space, I'm able to connect the divide. Like, for instance, I just spoke at Fort Moore, which formerly used to be Fort Benning, a
Mhm.
couple months ago, and was able to share Wounded Warrior Project with these veterans who are there. Again, combating some of those stigmas that Wounded Warrior Project isn't for you because you are not dealing with checkbox, one of um, the assumed injuries.
Right.
That's again, that comes back to the marketing piece. Is I'm able to market that and share it with as many people as I can, so that way they can get the help that they need and that they deserve.
So, okay. So, you go out and you speak
Mhm.
to active duty. You're volunteering. You clearly have a heart to serve. Especially in instances like this. As a therapist, social worker who's focused on trauma, doing this work can be both like rewarding and also heavy. Like there's a big difference with me doing clinical one-on-one work versus like larger issues like lobbying. I think you've heard me, and even my audience has heard me say, like, I'm the hypest introvert you'll ever meet, right? When I'm on, I'm on, but it's exhausting.
Yep.
As an introvert, exchanging energy with people, hugging. Oh my God. I shook like 50 people's hands yesterday. First of all, ew. I didn't want to spray hand sanitizer on like right afterwards while I
Yeah.
was in the office. So I was like, and we were going from office to office. Like it was nonstop for hours. And yes, I'm putting in S on it. Hours. You
Yeah.
hear me? Nonstop for hours where we were going from one office to going across the hall to the next office. And we were just zigzagging through the house. There's 3 floors. So for hours, I'm just in and out, in and out. People were like starting their lunch, and I was like, okay, trying to interrupt.
Yep.
It was just like warm hands, cold hands, wet hands. I was like, why? You're inside. So yeah, there were times when I shook people's hands and I was just like,
Yeah.
yeah. So and energy exchanging. I say all that to say, what do you do to take care of yourself? So what does Dr. Jenkins self-care look like?
Mm.
Self-care day, self-care routine.
Self-care. I think some of the things that I do in order to take care of myself is do the things that I enjoy, and I do them unapologetically. So I like to travel. That's something that I just love to do. And sometimes I just want to do it by myself. So I recently just came back from Costa Rica and did it by myself, and I enjoyed different points. Different points it could have been better, but for the most part, it was good. I'm looking forward to going to Thailand, um, and seeing what that has to offer by myself again. So
You've
that's
been
one.
to Thailand before?
No, I have not. I have
Okay.
not. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I generally won't visit a country twice.
Okay.
Uh, there have been exceptions, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, which is probably one of my top. Um,
You know they telling people to stay away from Jamaica though, right?
yeah, they're always saying that,
I
but
know.
why?
I feel bad. I feel
Ah,
bad.
no
I've never
problem.
been, so I don't know.
It's no problem.
Oh gosh.
I love it. All right, everything gonna be all right.
Oh my gosh. Let me find out. Let me find out.
Yes, yes.
No, I've never been. And solo travel for me is usually just here in the US.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that I would be willing to solo travel to another country. Like
I'm
I
telling
see,
you, you
huh?
can you can do it. I mean, you can join one of these companies that actually go out in groups, and
Is that still considered solo travel though?
still it's still solo. I mean, you by yourself, they're probably gonna be coupled up and you'll be by yourself. But yeah, yeah, it's still quote unquote solo traveling. I mean, you really can do it. I would say start with a country where you know it's a little safer, and then you can branch out to some of the other locations. Like Costa Rica was definitely safe. That was a safe place to travel.
Dr. Jenkins, you've met me personally. Okay.
Yes.
I'm 4'11". I'm about a buck 30. I'm kidnappable. I can easily be stuffed in a duffel bag. like easily. Like somebody could just snatch me up by grabbing my wrist. It wouldn't take a lot of effort. I would fight back, but I'm just saying I'm kidnappable. Okay.
But it's highly unlikely that you go. Highly unlikely.
That would be my
Highly
biggest fear.
unlikely.
Like I can't even go swimming in the ocean without thinking that, a large grouper is going to come by and go, she looks like food. That is my mindset. Like I
And
look like
it
food and
happened
I'm
to you in the
small enough.
States.
Huh?
That happened to you in the States.
What states? There's no, what are you talking about? The ocean here?
No, like you're talking about getting snatched up and all this other stuff. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, I thought you were Army, but like maybe not because I didn't think
I didn't say
Army.
I was special forces. Don't play. I'm not like
There's Air Force
praise.
problems, but
I was a logistics officer. Okay.
okay, okay.
That have nothing to do with my ability to get out of a fight. Now, I'm from Jersey. If that'll tell you anything, you can
I
try.
thought you all had to go infantry and then you go into whatever your job. Oh, okay, okay.
Nah, I think they didn't let women into combat until after I got out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, no, they were still putting women in S1 shops and
It's okay. We'll lead the way. It's fine.
oh gosh, no, y'all won't. Anyway,
Problem doing that.
self-care. So self-care for you is just travel. Like
Travel.
is
Yeah.
but how often do you travel?
I travel a
I
lot.
have a daily.
I travel a lot. Some people wonder if I even have a job. But yeah, yeah. So,
You're in the Air
I,
Force. I don't wonder, but
but
continue.
yeah, yeah. Traveling. Um, I like to listen to my audio books.
Okay.
Like what I'm listening to now is The Color Purple. I
Really?
love the movie. So I was like,
You saw
wow.
the recent movie or the first one?
So I my favorite movie is the original.
Okay.
So going to see the new one, it was okay. It was
Okay.
okay. Me and my mother, I took my mother, she liked it.
Okay.
Uh, but for me, the first one is it's always going to be that's the Juggernaut. That's
And the
my favorite.
Audible?
Audible is really really good.
Okay.
Audio book is really really good.
Okay.
Um, there's so many different things within the book that you would miss. So it's nice to go back and listen to the audio book. Yeah.
Okay.
I
I have
so
Audible too. So I can't say that I have any books for pleasure on my Audible account.
oh, really, I mean, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a um Leaders
You
Eat.
you feel those are entertainment?
I mean, I just enjoy them, but I also I enjoy constructive learning. I enjoy leadership books. I enjoy I don't know, just it's all over the place, kind of like music. I like Alanis Morissette songs. I like No Doubt. I like
I
um
will say eclectic music is my thing. So I listen to everything from like orchestra to
yeah,
rock.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm getting into country. I'm kind of liking country right now.
So like I like Neon Moon, which is a country song. Another one is called Drinking Problems. That's another good song.
There are a couple of Black country artists that I follow right now, and I love them.
Okay.
Love them.
Yeah, I got introduced into it when I was in Texas.
So I'm like, I'm looking through my Audible. I'm like, I'm trying to find something in my Audible that is not like it's not education based, motivational based. So I'm just gonna like read you a couple of my titles just so you see where I am, right? We Should Be All Be Millionaires by Rachel
Yeah.
Rogers.
Okay.
What Happened to You, which is by Oprah. Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents.
Yeah.
The Circle Maker Christian book. Wild Goose Chase, which I love, Christian book. Wake Up Girl and Push Through, which is a prayer um, book. 100 Days of Believing Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels. Again, another Christian book. The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes, The Body Keeps the Score. That's another one I'm currently listening to.
Yes.
Really good.
Damaged but Not Destroyed by Michael Todd, pastor. Pivot and Pursue It about coaching,
Okay.
The Gift of Fear, The Hidden Message in Water, which I think is not motivational, but it's like it's more of like philosophy.
Okay.
So The Hidden Message in Water, um, A Deadly Education. I think there's my nonfiction book right there, but I haven't read it, so I don't even know. Let's see.
This is fun.
No, don't play. I don't want you to play it. I just want to see what it's about. I don't even know how to title details. See, I was going to try to figure out what it's about, but it doesn't tell you when you click on it.
No.
That's terrible. I should know the title. Okay, anyway, so Deadly Education. Mind Gym. That's also a really good one because it tells you how to exercise the mind. Um, Secrets of Six Figure Women.
All right.
A Generation of Sociopaths. It's a really good book though, because it talks about like everything from like the Industrial Revolution, World War II, and where like all these different generations and how they dealt with wealth. So it's
Okay.
very interesting because it helps paint the picture. I know we're kind of off topic. Professional Troublemaker, The Art of Seduction, which is good for leaders.
Mhm.
You Owe You by Eric Thomas. You know who Eric Thomas is, right? Yeah. Rich People Problems. That's it. That's my library in Audible. I need something fun. I don't think The Color Purple is
Will
fun.
Smith's book. Will Smith's book. That's a really good one. Listen to
It's
that.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually pretty funny. Yeah, it was interesting as I was listening to it. There were so many areas in which I was comparing myself, and at the end, I was like, or towards the middle, I was like, "Am I Will Smith?"
And my Will Smith. I'm definitely not going to ask that question at the end. Okay. So self-care. Who taught you about self-care or did someone teach you about self-care?
Women, yeah,
Really?
yeah, women have taught me about self-care. Because oftentimes, guys, we are um, not trained, but I think societal norms really just push you in the direction of, don't cry, don't show your emotions, don't do anything that's actually productive to help yourself to recharge, unless it's, drinking Red Bulls or coffee and just getting back to the grind. And when you think about that, right,
Hmm.
with gear, grinding, it's not actually a good thing.
Right.
Grind, after a while, it wears whatever it is down.
Right.
So I don't think that's a badge of honor.
Right.
So the air is, if you were to think about a gear on a bicycle, you're going to do what? You're going to oil it. You're going to, am I that boring?
Don't
Uh,
do that. Don't do that. You do. Ladies and gentlemen, I accidentally almost yawned.
social cues. I can notice it.
No, don't go there. Menopause.
It's up, folks.
I'm gonna blame it on menopause every time.
Oh man, don't do that.
You
Don't
started
do that
it.
for people who are actually dealing with it.
I am dealing with it.
I want to see your doctor's note.
Wow, actually dealing with it. I don't. Do you see this gray hair, Dr.
No,
Jenkins?
I don't.
Yes, you do.
I actually don't.
Really? It's
No,
there. It's like right there in the front. I got like this Cruella DeVille thing because it's like one patch of gray hair. I have gray hair,
reaching, but that's cool.
but I digress. Anyway, back to girls popping. Okay, so self-care, we're talking about like your guys versus women. Women are fantastic, aren't we?
Yeah, I have a ton of female friends, and they've taught me so many different ways of just taking care of yourself and celebrating myself as well. Something that I never was really into. So
That's good. I mean, I like that you said like travel is self-care, but I was more interested in like what do you do on a regular basis? Because you can't just like get up and fly to another country when you're having like a bad day. So the fact that you listen to like audibles and books and pour into yourself. So in terms of like challenges and stuff, if you don't mind sharing, like what's been the most challenging part about being in the military, and then what's been the most rewarding part?
So the most challenging part, I think, has been being a leader. That's you want to do right by your people.
Hmm.
I want to do right by my people.
Hmm.
I want to be the supervisor that I wanted when I was an airman, a young airman coming up. I
Right.
want to ensure that they have all the resources that they need. I want to make sure that they feel valued,
Hmm.
heard, appreciated, celebrated, and know that they have an advocate, a voice as it should be. A great leader is one that's going to stand in between, their troops or their airmen
Hmm.
and the powers that be in order to get to whatever that particular goal is. So if something goes wrong, or if they make a mistake, I don't blame that on them. I blame that on me, and I take that home. So that's what I would say is the most challenging part, but it also ties into being the most beneficial because when I see that they are able to thrive, become their best selves,
Hmm.
um, to do great things, be awarded and celebrated, and I'm able to just cheer them on. I think that's so rewarding. The other is when we are placed in different situations and I'm able to see the growth um, of a particular project and it reach maybe a national level. That's
Hmm.
uh that's pretty awesome.
So as a male leader in the Air Force, do you feel like we, and I'm including like the DoD and then outside nonprofits like Wounded Warrior, myself like Glass Soldier, do you think that we're doing enough to prevent sexual assault from
Mm.
your point of view?
So you're talking about organizations or the military?
Both
Okay.
from your point of view, because you have both, right? You're still within the DoD structure, but you also work with outside organizations. So
Yeah.
from your POV.
Yeah. So I think we're never at the pinnacle, in my opinion. I think we're always constantly climbing the mountain and trying to be better as we climb that mountain, but also laying down a path so that way it becomes easier for the next person. So that way they can take it a little further. Within the military, I think that there's more that we could do, but
Mhm.
that's with educating people. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's why it's important to have communication, up the chain and down the chain, and feel as if you're valued. Your opinion is valued, and that there isn't going to be retaliation. And that's one thing that I really press towards my airmen. I
Yeah.
don't care what it is. If it's bothering you that much, take it to go through the proper chains, but make your voice be heard, and I will stand, beside you to ensure that um, justice is served, whatever that may look like.
Yeah.
And and if it means me risking my career, then so be it, because then that means that I have served my purpose. My purpose was to do that, to protect um, my airmen. Outside work, um, I would have to say that there are some that really do some great things. I've seen the Wounded Warrior Project, just work in many different people's lives. The assumption is that it only happens to women, but there are men as well
Yeah.
um, that go through it, giving them a safe space to be able to vocalize those things and to share it with them is something I think they do a really great job with.
Yeah. I had a gentleman asked me about that yesterday, right? So, because what we were there to do at the Senate yesterday was talking specifically about women veteran issues,
Yeah.
he kind of did the whataboutism thing.
Yeah.
There's nothing more frustrating when you're there to focus on something in particular to have someone else like take another group of people and go, but what about these? We're like, we're not talking about them right now. And I understood what he said. He's like, there are male survivors, recognize and we understand. Um, the majority of those who have been victimized by sexual trauma tends to be men and women. And the way that I try to explain to them why there's so much emphasis on women and not on men is because when it comes down to it, rape and sexual assault is about power.
Hmm.
And those that hold the most power tend to be males.
Yeah.
In most situations that I've been privileged to hear male survivors speak, it was always a woman who was in power, their drill sergeant, their leader. Like that person was in a position of power because it's about control.
Mhm.
And so, again, when we think about the statistics of women in the military, the minority, when we think about the statistics of leadership, the ones who hold the positions of power, again, women are just now coming into combat positions. Yes, we have women that hold several stars right now. But again, it's still very male dominant. So, and I'm just explaining the statistics, not explaining away why male veterans are not being supported. I think the DoD is going in the right direction by creating programs now for men to come forward, and we're seeing the uptick in numbers. Um, and I think that's great. And I think there's a space for it. But just like with female survivors, most of them don't want to share spaces with male survivors. It can be triggering.
Hmm.
And so I struggled with it in my organization because I thought men are not going to come to my safe space because I might represent the person that hurt them. They may not want to open up to another female because in society, we still have these narratives that men that cry or men that are vulnerable are viewed as weak. And so that might be difficult for them. I would love for Glass Soldier to have a component for male survivors, but I think it should be led by another male.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's you hit the nail on the head. And um, for me, it's something that I'm extremely passionate about because, my sister, um, she was raped and murdered in Philadelphia. And, her story just didn't end there. she she had a decision to make, and he gave her an option: either you tell and I'll kill you, or you stay silent. And just her bravery, I carry that with me, is her bravery to say something. you know
Yeah,
she didn't have to. And I think about how many other women did she save just by making that choice.
that choice to tell.
The man that I am, I owe uh, owe a debt to her, because I don't know what type of man I would have been,
Yeah,
uh, had she have not experienced that. But I know that because of that, I've tried to carry on her legacy to ensure that her name continues to be in the voice in the mouths of people. That's why I created the road sign in her honor, the scholarship. So anyone who comes through and they get that June True Heart Scholarship, you know, it's it's uh it's an honor to know that uh after she passed, her legacy didn't pass with her.
that's awesome. Well, thank you, one, for sharing that with everyone. I really appreciate that. Um, because turning tragedy like that into triumph is difficult, and it's also a constant journey. right?
Yeah.
Because there's this joy that I hear in your voice, that that hum of pain is in the background. Like, my sister is, you know, immortalized in her work, but being immortal, right? She's no longer physically here. Excuse me. So again, thank you for sharing that. You'll have to like send me the information so we can put this in the podcast so people can go out and support it for sure.
Thank you.
So last question before I let you go. This is I am this is a brand new question that I've never asked anybody before. So you should
Okay.
feel very special that I'm doing something I've never done on the podcast before and asking my guests. If
I'm
you
here
could,
for it.
if you could be a kitchen utensil, what utensil, which one would you be and why?
Hmm. If I could be, I would have to say an air fryer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I-
didn't see this one coming. I did not see air fryer coming. Air makes sense because you're Air Force, but okay, go ahead, enlighten us.
So I would have to say an air fryer, yeah. Because my journey is just a culmination of a bunch of things. And with an air fryer, right, it can cook fish, steak, it can cook, plátanos, it can cook, habichuela. Like you can put so many things in an air fryer
Really?
and it's gonna do what it has to do. So I think the same with me is I started down the path of an artist, like being able to draw, to going to college for graphic design. Initially, it was art therapy, child psychology, um, and then to have this transition into the business world to get my MBA and then my DBA and the military aspects, working as a mechanic and then intelligence and now public affairs. So I feel like every avenue I've gone into, I've been able to leave some type of positive change while I was there. And
Kind of like a Swiss Army knife, not an air fryer.
but an air fryer is just awesome. Oh my gosh, because you don't have to you don't need the oil.
And
Like
you're
so,
dropping all these like nuggets at the end of all this stuff that you're doing. You don't have time to be. You got a lot going on. Are
yeah,
you just
you
gonna
can.
be like, oh yeah, artist and graphic designer, and oh by the way, this was my path in mind. So I guess
And then
really,
I have acted in a couple of movies.
really,
Yeah.
okay.
So Silver Lining Playbook, you could see me in there in the background. Law Abiding Citizen, that was the first one that I ever did. And it was really cool because like Reese Witherspoon, she bought us all Rita's Water Ice. Um, yeah, yeah, Owen Wilson, he was just riding his bike through Philadelphia.
I feel
Um,
like we're gonna have to do like an Instagram live to like dive into this. Like
yeah,
we're gonna have to like do a part two like they do on TikTok. You also follow me on my other social media channels. They do a part two. Give the people what they want. Okay.
there
Well,
was, yeah, no, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, there was one thing that I did want to share, just what was my moment of who like where I was like, all right, I'm there. Um, and now I have to do something with it.
Hmm.
I had just came back from officer training school, OTS.
Hmm.
First weekend, first drill weekend back, brand new. And this young, well, he wasn't too young, but black airman came up to me and he just said, thank you. And I was like, what did I do? Like we literally just saw each other. It was the first time I had ever met him.
Hmm.
Um, he was just like, thank you. He was like, I know that for you to earn that lieutenant, like it took some work and some
Wow.
sacrifice. He was like, I don't see many, if any, black officers. And the fact that you continue to go that path and, obviously you probably fought for it. I just want to say thank you for not giving up because if you can do it, then there's some representation there that I could do it as well. And I'm proud to say that he is an officer now.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing. So that was my moment where I was like, okay, all of that hard work, 10 years, 10 interviews, 10 interviews.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, which is a whole nother story for another day. But
Yeah. It sounds like an Instagram live where we're gonna have to bring you back
yeah,
on the show. I mean, I love that. Again, thank you for sharing that. I really hope that our audience got to hear something a little bit different than not just my voice for 30 minutes.
yeah, we've been on what over an hour.
Almost an hour. Almost
Yeah,
an hour.
yeah.
Yeah. So, and I normally keep my podcast less than an hour. I know there are some people that do, but it was worth it. It was worth it. So thank you again for being on here. We will have the information to your sister's scholarship fund. That'll be embedded in our podcast link and on our YouTube channel. So please go out and support. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for coming on here.
Thank you, Dr. for having me.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, that Black excellence. Come on.
When we get the military style view going and it's all 4 women, oh, we're bringing you back for sure.
Oh, I mean, shoot, I've got plenty of sisters, so yeah, I'm ready. Whatever you bring, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, as I always sign off with you guys, time is a finite resource. So anytime that you spend it with me, I truly appreciate it. So thank you for listening, guys. Do good, be good.